Welcome to Watch, Review, Repeat. This is the podcast where two best friends discuss the latest in film and television and then do it all over again the following week. My name is Colton Brown, and joining me is Andrew Meadows.
I'm back in the saddle again. I can't do it.
It's been a couple weeks. I don't think anyone... It's all right. I think I won't even attempt it. Otherwise, our listeners' ears would be in a lot of pain. It's just not worth it for anyone involved, really. It's been a couple weeks since we sat down to record, and wouldn't you know it, this is the first episode in at least a month, maybe even longer, probably even longer, really, where we're covering new content. We are diving into 2021 goodness. Finally, we we spent 7 hours talking about 2020, looking ahead to 2021, and now we finally have the opportunity to sit down and get into things. And so I think we're starting off with a bang. We're talking about Judas and the Black Messiah on this episode, and it was. I mean, 2021, in my estimation, is off to a rousing start. We'll talk about the film, obviously, but it's exciting. We've got a lot, I think, kind of on our plate. With this early slate of the year, this February slate, there's just a lot of stuff that's kind of come out. So I'm excited to talk about that stuff that's come out in March, or at least about to come out in March, that we'll talk about as well. So there's a lot of stuff to talk about, but we'll get there eventually. How have you been? Since we recorded last, you've been up to some fun things, some exciting things. You doing all right?
I'm doing good. A lot of network television.
Oh yeah, some reality stuff, I bet.
Yeah, we got The Voice, we got The American Idol and shit. We got The Bachelor. Hot new news on The Bachelor. Other than that, we hired somebody at work.
Oh, got a little bit of help in there. That should be good, right? I guess it's.
She also has a lightsaber on her finger, which is cool. She's got Darth Vader's lightsaber on her finger, which is cool.
She'll fit right in, is what you're saying.
Yeah, she's there. So I mean, we'll see how it works out. The last girl we hired, we thought was going to work out, and then she left after 2 weeks. So we'll see. We'll see if she's a good fit. So
all right, check back into the 2 week mark and see if we're trending in the right direction.
That's right. But yeah, just a lot of work. It's been hellacious. It was super, super slow last month. Really slow, and then all of a sudden it's like the floodgates open. So it's good. It's super busy, but it's also super frazzling. I think last night we were going to record, but I didn't get home until like 9 o'clock, and I was like, I'm spent. I can't do it.
Yeah.
But yeah, been good, dude. Been good.
All right. Well, good. It's been a little while since we've had a proper conversation, and like I said, it's been a while since we've had a proper episode. So for those of you that are still with us after those back-to-back 3+ hour behemoths of episodes, thank you for your support. And if you're joining us for the first time, and you hear the words 3 hours, that is not the normal thing for us. Well, although we've been trending in that way for a while, but I think our hope is we're planning to record a few episodes kind of bunched together to accommodate Andrew's upcoming time away from Florida. And so
trying to bang it all out.
The hope is that, we can have a few maybe slightly shorter episodes, at least shorter than our usual lengths have been recently. And so it should be good. I didn't ask you before we started recording, so I might be putting you on the spot here. But did you have a fun fact or anything that you wanted to share regarding Judas and the Black Messiah?
I don't really have a fun fact other than my fact, which, we live in the day of my facts, so perhaps that's okay. I didn't know a lot about the Black Panthers. I didn't know a lot about the, to be completely honest, this is going to be really bad. Fred Hampton?
Mm-hmm.
Is that his name?
Yeah.
There for a while, I was calling him the name from the guy from the Expanse.
Fred Johnson?
Fred Johnson. I was calling him Fred Johnson there for a while, and then I was
the
like,
Butcher of Anderson Station?
Yeah, I have to fix this before the fucking podcast, so I guess I made a move in the right direction.
Well,
so
and you also admitted it on air, so any progress you've made has now been completely upended, but that's okay. Baby steps.
I was talking about it to myself in the shower this morning when I got ready for work. We're recording about it. I can't call him Fred Johnson's fucking Expanse. So anyways, I did not know the way that the history books depict the Black Panthers, I don't know, perhaps maybe this, I don't know if this movie is more sympathetic towards the Black Panthers or if history is more antagonistic against the Black Panthers. I don't know. I don't know what the right answer is there. But I think the truth lies somewhere maybe in between or somewhere. I don't know. But this movie was incredibly, I don't know. I feel like I learned a lot, you know?
Yeah.
We've been watching a lot of movies recently, where I feel like I didn't know a lot about the topic. They're based in history, and whether or not I am being, whether or not they're completely truthful in the things that they depict, I don't know. But at least I feel like I have another source of information, which is always, I think, super important. So I really, yeah, I don't know. I feel like I learned a lot in this movie.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, you're really not standing on a limb, I think, in saying that. I think that this is a movie that is probably educational for a lot of people, and I think that is because, as you can probably ascertain from watching this movie, you know, there was a very deliberate attempt to besmirch the name of the Black Panther Party and to particularly besmirch the name of Fred Hampton. And so, you know, I think our history books, as they're written, either just don't mention any of this shit outright, or it's a footnote or something buried, and this is a chapter of history that I think that
much like the Chicago 7.
Yes, the people in power have rewritten it in their favor such that this sort of information gets buried. And of course, now we live in a time where, it's not as easy to just bury facts and stuff like that. You're not going to have the government reaching out and saying, don't make a movie about this shit. Or, you're going to have this, you can read this all on Wikipedia, if you wanted to at this point. There's a free access point to get insight into anything that happened here and kind of get more of a unadulterated version of events. And obviously that's user edited and stuff like that. But, there are sources out there that could really give you good insights into this that are colored by,
right.
Basically all the layers and channels that could have blocked that information from being disseminated in an honest and truthful fashion. Certainly at the time, in the 60s and probably even in the decades subsequent to that. So yeah, I mean, a lot of this information is probably going to be new for a lot of people. I knew some of this, not really all of it, kind of where the film heads in terms of, it's a historical event, that the record is there. It stands for itself. These things happened. But certainly there were elements to this that I was not privy to, either due to my own ignorance or due to the failure of probably Florida education particularly, but it's probably not just limited to Florida if I had to guess. So yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I think that if nothing else, this movie is a good tool to learn some things, and then maybe, spark inspiration to say, okay, I got a 2-hour snapshot of this. This obviously is not covering everything. You know what I mean? Like I have the tools at my disposal that I can go and inform myself. I can learn about these things and fill in the gaps that, a 2-hour movie is not going to fill in for me. And, it's not a documentary or anything like that, but it still is clearly concerned with telling the truth of Fred Hampton, of the Black Panther Party.
A different perspective.
Particularly in Illinois. But yeah. So, I mean...
That's my fun fact. I mean,
it's a sort of fun fact. I do have another fact, which is not fun, but is something that Anna said to me while we were watching the movie. But given the nature of it, I'll hold off on that fact and relay it once we get to the spoiler section, just because even though this is historical in nature and we know these things, not everyone does, as we just said. So certainly kind of the more major points of this, we'll hold off our conversation about them until the spoiler conversation. So the only thing I'll mention, I guess, while we're talking fun facts and stuff, this isn't specifically related to Judas, but I do think that, tying in with a movie that we really, really liked last year, was in both of our top fives last year, The Trial of the Chicago 7, if you recall, also features Fred Hampton in the movie, actually appearing in in the crowd at the trial. So there's a little bit of a crossover there. So it kind of makes for, I think, an interesting kind of 1-2 punch. I mean, you could probably watch it and you probably watch trial first. It came out first. You might as well do it at that point. But it reminds me, I think, in some ways of something like The Darkest Hour and Dunkirk, where Darkest Hour basically sets up the events of the battle, that's depicted in Dunkirk. So even though they're totally separate films that were not made in unison or anything like that, it's the same thing here. Like, they both kind of offer something on, basically events around the same time frame that feature the same, real life historical figures. I think it's just kind of an interesting watch. And Trial of Chicago 7 is excellent, so I'm not going to miss a chance to plug people watching it if they missed it last year, or
was
they didn't
Fred Johnson in the trial for Chicago 7?
He was not on trial, but he appeared, in the crowd basically in support
for the guy
of
that
those
was
on trial. Yes,
the guy that was getting gagged and stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Gotcha. Okay.
So anyway, just a little pseudo crossover, not an actually a crossover thing, but weaving the thread of real life events and just kind of seeing how they played out. As you mentioned with trial, two sets of events that most people probably don't know shit about, and now you have movies in back-to-back years that are basically depicting the same place, the same time frame, and you're getting a whole new perspective on things that are really insane to think about. So we'll get to that, particularly when it comes to this movie in due time. So what we will do now is talk about some news. As it has been a long, long time since we've recorded the regular episode, there is a lot of news that we have not discussed. We talked about some things on our 2021 episode, for things that were coming out in 2021, some new trailers and stuff that had popped up. We talked about them then, so we don't need to rehash them there. But there's a lot of stuff that is, coming out beyond 2021 or is coming out in 2021. We just didn't have that information available to us at the time. But in lieu of talking about 20 different pieces of news and being here for another 3 hours, I cut it down to just 6 things that we're going to talk about tonight. And then on the other episodes that we're going to be recording in a short span of time from when we record this, we'll kind of try to balance everything out and try to get up to speed on everything over the course of just a handful of episodes. So I think it'll make for a better recording and listening experience. That's my hope anyway. So first piece of news, unfortunately, is a sad one, and I hope will be the only sad piece of news that we talk about throughout the course of these next few episodes that we record and catching up on all these news. Christopher Plummer passed away at age 91, actually a month ago to the date, February 5th, as that shows you that we're at least a month behind on things. We haven't had a chance to talk about Christopher Plummer passing away, so now is when we do that. Huge career that he had. I watched The Sound of Music for the first time. I think it must have been either last year or the year prior to that. Pretty recent, and that's one of his earliest roles, and I think one of his most iconic roles. New York Times put it as his best-known film. So I feel a little shame that it took me so long to view it. But he was great in that, and obviously I think he's had, he's been, I think, prolific throughout his career, basically up until the end of it. Knives Out in 2019, he was fantastic in. Was he the figurehead for that family? Yes. Yeah. He was the patriarch. The patriarch. That's my word. That sets up the mystery of Knives Out. Exactly. That dude's incredible. Though he was incredible in that movie. I can't recall. I'm sure if you sat there and listed them off, I might recall. But I remember him in Knives Out. Knives Out is an incredible movie. So hats off to him. Yeah. So some other movies that he appeared in: The Insider, 1999. Spike Lee's Malcolm X in 92. Ron Howard's Beautiful Mind, 2001. He was in The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, the Fincher version, in 2011. And I think a couple noteworthy things. He won the Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor in the film Beginners when he was the ripe old age of 82, which is very impressive. I have not seen that. It is on HBO Max, so I do intend to watch it at some point. And he was also nominated. You'll probably remember this storyline. He was nominated at the age of 88 for an acting category for All the Money in the World, which was the Ridley Scott film that originally starred Kevin Spacey. And then,
they changed the actor.
And then, things shook out how they did, and in comes Christopher Plummer to reshoot this role of.
I think the discussion we had with that was, why didn't they just cast an old person to begin with?
Yes, originally Ridley Scott in his infinite wisdom decided to bury Kevin Spacey in ridiculous amount of makeup, and he looked fucking ridiculous. And what do you know when you recast him with someone who is age appropriate, who you don't need to bury in a ton of ridiculous looking makeup? You get someone who is an incredible actor and delivers a performance apparently worthy of recognition. I never saw the film.
Imagine that.
But yeah. So anyway, Christopher Plummer,
91
years old. So that's
it's a full life,
a long-lived life. He in some won an Oscar, 2 Tonys, and 2 Emmys. So certainly a celebrated career. And it's a shame. Obviously, even if you're 91, it's still a shame. But I think that his filmography speaks for itself, and I think that his performances in those films will speak for themselves. So to that we say rest in peace to Christopher Plummer. And hope that, again, that is the only bad piece of news that we really have to talk about over the next week or so as we record these. You'll probably go away and then come back, and an all amount of bad shit will happen. But knock on wood that it doesn't. But anyway, that brings us to the next piece of news, which may
or may not be bad news.
Depending on your perspective, is bad news. It's not. I don't think it's sad news per se, but it could be bad news, absolutely. And that is that HBO, not content with fucking up the entirety of Game of Thrones by virtue of its final season, and developing a spinoff that got canceled, and developing another spinoff which has been picked up to series, says we want more. We want more Game of Thrones prequels. We want all of the Game of Thrones prequels, in fact. So according to Entertainment Weekly, HBO is developing multiple more Game of Thrones prequels. And one of those would be based on the short stories by George R.R. Martin called The Tales of Dunk and Egg, which kind of follows the adventures of Sir Duncan the Tall and a young Aegon Targaryen, which is about 100 years-ish prior to the events of the show that we saw. So a little bit before the other prequel that we're going to get, I think, but not all that much before. Fine, whatever, I guess. I'm so...
I just don't get it. Like, you have this incredible IP, and everybody knows it landed on a fucking fart. Like, it just... It was it. You know what I mean?
They're desperate to
It's like, why not say, before this and before that, there was this. You know what I mean? You have the Age of Men or whatever. You could do whatever you want to do with that incredible IP, and you choose to go 90 years before. You choose to go. It's just like, why? Like,
so, I at least with this one, there is somewhat of an argument in the sense that I think people would agree with this assertion that Game of Thrones went off the rails when it started to have to invent its own material, right?
That's
George
true.
may have given D&D an outline or something like that, but they were filling in the gaps basically on their own or with the writer's room of whoever the fuck they hired, which it was probably just them mostly. So if there's source material that's there, then maybe you're fine. The first 4 seasons based off of 5 books that existed.
Solid source material.
Right. And then they had to kind of start making their own shit up. And, obviously they diverged here and there or whatever, but it really was once they started to have to craft their own conclusion to everything else that George had set up that they were just clearly not prepared to do that. So with this one, with Dunk and Egg, there are 3 short stories that have been published by George R.R. Martin. So, you can follow those to a T and maybe you get a good TV show out of that. Fair enough. But the thing is, George wants to apparently write like 10 of these fucking things. So it's like,
of course he does.
Do you just, he'll probably write those 10 before he fucking finishes the mainline series at this rate. Although realistically, he won't finish either of them. I think that's the actual timeline that we're looking at. Do you make the 3 that exist and then just invent your own shit again, and find yourself in the exact same position? Do you adapt the 3 that exist and call it a day? Like, how long are these stories such that, you can really make what
are you going for, George? What are you doing?
I don't even know if this is George to blame. I think this is probably on HBO. I mean, if HBO is asking George, like, hey, we want to make these things, are you okay with that? And George is like, money? Oh, yeah. Okay. So I don't really blame him necessarily. I mean, I can blame him for a failure to write, of his own accord, but I don't know. Whatever. We'll see what happens, I just don't understand how you're going to make this more than a season long. And maybe it is just a mini series, 6 episodes, 2 episodes dedicated to each story. That could work, but
they won't do that shit.
HBO's not doing that. Like, you're kidding yourself if you think that's what HBO's game plan is. Exactly. So anyway, in case that wasn't enough, apparently they're contemplating the idea of doing a Robert's Rebellion prequel as well.
That would be a cool prequel series.
It could be a cool prequel series. I think the problem with doing it is we know everything we need to know. There's nothing novel that would come to light as a result of making that show other than it just satisfying like a cool idea,
What I want to know
it could work, but
I want to know what happens when the First Men come over.
Yeah.
I want to know way the fuck back, or I want to know way, way beyond.
Yeah, I mean, they're not moving past the ending of Game of Thrones. Like, if we do a sequel, we have to acknowledge that the ending was canon in some respects and build on that.
It's the same thing that happens with the sequel series with Star Wars. Like, I mean, you have such an incredible thing, and if it's not there, then you got free reign to do what you want with the IP. Do it, make it good, and do it. Yeah. I don't understand the argument that you have to like staple things to, I don't know. I don't know. That's why I don't get paid the big bucks to develop the shit, I guess.
Yeah, we're in the wrong line of business apparently. I don't know. We'll see what happens when it all shakes out. Maybe it goes the way of that one prequel that they greenlit and then canceled because apparently it wasn't good enough or something. I don't know, but leave it to HBO to try to revive Game of Thrones multiple ways. We remember The Walking Dead. We talked about The Walking Dead on the 2021 episode. It's starting to venture into that territory of like, let's just make as many fucking spinoffs of this shit as possible. And it's like, it's just dead. Bury it at this point. Like, leave it alone. If you want to revisit it in 5 to 10 years when people have kind of like had, the awful experience of that last season out of their memory to a certain extent, I think there's an argument to be made. But like at this point, like it's too recent. It hurts too much. We don't want it. We just simply do not want it.
I don't want it.
I don't want it.
Perfect.
Game of Thrones
plug.
is not my queen. That's what I'm saying. Moving on. Things that I also do not want. I don't want it. Harry Potter is getting a live-action television series, also at HBO.
Why?
Because Harry Potter, it brings in the big bucks, right? So
Harry Potter's pretty great. I like Harry Potter. What's this show gonna do? What is this show?
No clue, other than they're apparently going to make it, which honestly surprises me that it's taken this long for the geniuses over at WB to say we should take a Harry Potter thing and turn it into a TV format. I don't think it's going to be I think it's going to be within the world of the films, the universe of the Harry Potter films, such that we're not just going to be seeing the same events of the books or anything like that redepicted, but I don't know. It just feels like, especially with the attempt to really branch out the universe with the Fantastic Beasts movies, this feels like an obvious thing to do. I don't want it. As I said, I don't care. I'm content with
fucking Harry Potter. Yeah.
I'm content. I don't need more. The Fantastic Beasts franchise, I don't need more of it. That last one was so bad that I'm off of it, basically. Other than the fact that we'll inevitably cover it for this podcast. J.K. Rowling fucking sucks, so I don't want to support anything that she even slightly benefits from. Like, the thing is, like, WB and J.K., they're like pals still, and it's not like WB is like really distancing themselves in some major way. Like, she's still banking off of everything Harry Potter related, So, the video game too, they're making the Hogwarts Legacy video game, and it's like, if you had gave me 10 years ago, an open world Harry Potter, modern RPG.
Would you still been into it?
I think 10 years ago, yeah. I think when, like, in the heyday of the movies coming out and the books coming out, like, that would have been, like, perfect. Like, I think I would have been super into that. Now I'm kind of just detached from it all. Like, I don't know when I'm going to revisit the books. I don't, the movies, are divorced enough in the sense that obviously, it's someone taking, Joe's vision and turning it into something else entirely. But
I like the Harry Potter movies. That's the only exposure I have to them. Yeah. And I think some are better than others, but I like the Harry Potter.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And I like the IP. What the Fantastic Beast shit kind of just flatlined.
I mean, the first one was fine. It was okay. Fine. I didn't need it. It was fine. And then the second one was just...
It was pretty shit.
Just what what the fuck happened there? I mean, just went completely off the rails.
I don't need a video game for Harry Potter. I don't...
Sure.
I wouldn't play it now. I'm not even slightly interested in it now. And it's not because of J.K. Rowling. It's not because of X, Y, and Z. It's just, it does not...
You're off it at this point. Like, I'm good. I had 8 films...
I'm good.
I'm
good.
I gotta. I mean, we have 10 films at this point. We gotta.
Yeah,
we're in double digits. We're good.
I'm good.
I'm
good. But
I don't know.
Whatever.
Yeah.
If it's compelling, it's a good story. I mean, I'm sure I'll dive into it. But I don't need a Harry Potter live action series.
I guess that's just how I feel about it.
It's the last thing I'm asking for.
I don't want it. I don't need it. Is there something that could be interesting that could be mined from the source material?
Well, sure, absolutely.
Yes. Absolutely, it could be, but I don't know.
Okay.
I have complicated feelings about it in the sense that I think that it's a world that's really interesting, and I think that and in a vacuum, this could be something. And I mean, I still go back to the point of, like, you're a decade too late. You know what I mean? Like, this is something that, I mean, obviously streaming services weren't where they are, at the time that Deathly Hallows came out or anything like that. So it's a different world, I guess, in that sort of way, where you can have, these big budget type, marquee shows coming to streaming services and such, but I don't know. I just...
They're trying to make the best. They're making the best of their investment, and we'll see if they can do something with it. But
yeah, anyway, maybe we could turn this episode around. We have some good news in here. We do have good news. I think these last 3 are a little bit more uplifting than the first 3. It wasn't intentional how I structured that, but they just felt like they were worthy of talking about. So I put them in there. The next one is that we are getting another Cloverfield sequel. This time, courtesy of Joe Barton, who is set to write it. Who I think according to Hollywood Reporter, his number, his biggest credit to date is that he's working on the Batman TV spinoff that's also coming to HBO Max sometime. But this, Cloverfield's it's an interesting franchise at this point, one that's kind of topsy-turvy in the sense that I think the first film, when it came out, was kind of an out-of-nowhere thing that I particularly really enjoyed.
The coolest viral, like...
The marketing was awesome.
Yeah. Oh, man. I remember doing that with the, like following it in your bedroom in high school or whatever.
Yeah.
I remember... Oh,
it's a lion. It's huge.
Oh, it was crazy. It was totally awesome. Voltron. And it was totally unheard of. Like, I think it must have been, like, the first thing that did that.
Yeah, no, they really, I mean...
They really worked it, and it was excellent.
It did, and it worked. I mean, the marketing outside of that was fantastic as well. You got a untitled teaser, I think in front of the first Transformers movie, in fact, with the Statue of Liberty being decapitated and the head landing, and you're just like, whoa, what's this? And it just gave you a date, and that was it. And you're just like, what the fuck was that? And I think that the movie, ended up being a found footage thing. I think it holds up, I think it's still a pretty good movie. And I guess I just realized the connection here. Matt Reeves was the one that directed the first Cloverfield movie, and he is doing the Batman, not the show, but I'm sure he's involved in the show to some degree. So I suppose there's some synergy there where he's like, this guy might be good for this sort of thing, maybe. But I don't know. I think from that first one, which I think really worked on its own merits, the franchise went in weird directions in the sense that 10 Cloverfield Lane is a great film, but it was never intended to be a Cloverfield sequel. It was kind of just, shoehorned into one. And then the Cloverfield Paradox
was kind of shit.
Was that to the nth degree of this was probably not good to begin with, but then they shoehorned some Cloverfield monsters 10 times the size, jumping through clouds and shit. I'm like, what the fuck is happening in this movie? And it was just nonsense.
Yeah, the guy getting like alien, Cloverfield monsters in his belly and shit. You remember that?
Yeah, it was just. He had worms that popped up in his stomach too. I think,
and that was, it was cool the way they dropped that after
intriguing.
Super Bowl. The drop was boom.
The marketing for that. Yeah.
Boom! It's now available. Holy shit! I know what I'm watching after Super Bowl. That was awesome.
That was neat. That was very cool. But it didn't live up to the promise of what it could have been.
The God Particle, I think, is what it was first called, right?
It was that's what it was until it was the Cloverfield Paradox. Exactly.
I still think, on the merit of the property itself, I think it's cool. I think it's really cool. I don't think the quality of the films have quite lived up to what they could have been, but I think that the concept is cool.
I think so too. A found footage horror film was really interesting, and I think that it was pretty well done for it. This one apparently is not going to be found footage, but I think that's fine as long as this is designed from the ground up as a sequel to that, because 10 Cloverfield Lane was basically aliens, and maybe the Cloverfield monster is an alien or some shit like that, but it definitely clearly indicated that he was resurrected from the sea or brought into action from the sea, Godzilla style, and then Paradox was set in outer fucking space, you know what I mean? So
but it was the paradox is what set. It's what fucked Earth, right?
Right. It was supposed to. I don't know. Yeah, set up something
crazy.
with the monster getting.
But that's kind of cool. It's kind of
if it was done well, it could have been.
What it does is it sets the series up to be kind of like a B movie kind of thing. You know what I mean?
They're loosely connected, but I do think that the first one was good enough that you could have just made a sequel to it. I always thought people always pointed out that there's when they're crossing the bridge in the first movie, there's you have HUD who is filming the movie and he sees someone else that is also filming things from a different perspective. It's like, watch that movie. What's another set of people doing the same
cool.
events?
I never knew about that.
This probably won't be that because they said it's not going to be a found footage thing, but you could absolutely make a sequel that is set around the same time frame or is set right after and deals with the aftermath of this thing or something like that. And I don't know, I just think there's an infinite amount of ways that you could really take the same set of events and build a sequel around that, and they haven't really done that yet. They've kind of loosely been like, look, this house says Cloverfield, the address is something Cloverfield Lane, 10 Cloverfield Lane, I guess I know that information, and the other one is like, look, the monster's there, and some sort of paradox is
so what we're getting
that,
at,
blah, blah, but,
Bad Robot, Paramount, HBO, is that we need to be contacted at a minimal income level. I mean, it's fine. You just need to consult us on your storyboard ideas. We can elevate your stories. Is I think the key point here. Minimal income. We don't need to make a whole bunch of money, but we certainly
we're here for you.
We're here for you. At the very
least, we don't
least,
work for free.
Yeah, we don't work for free, but we can work for minimal amount and be accredited in the roles, and then other people can call us. Disney can call us. But we're here. We're here for you to make better story decisions.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it is our hope that HBO will not need any help with story decisions on the next project we're talking about. And I think if the casting decisions are any indication, I think they're on the right track. So HBO is crafting an adaptation of the video game The Last of Us.
Holy shit.
And, to me, in my eyes, I'm actually in the midst of replaying it. I think I started it months ago, and I played a little bit more recently. It's the type of game that is tailor-made for a series adaptation. It feels almost like it's as close to a movie as you can get with the video game like that. It's a hard-hitting, unflinching drama, dramatic video game, that deals with some hard subject matter, deals with some hard thematic material. Like, it feels almost like an HBO series already. And so the story is there. You just got to, synthesize it from gameplay type things of, fighting off clickers and shit and make that interesting, in the form of a television show. Like, you still have to adapt it in some way. But they've cast the lead roles of Jewell and Ellie, and I'm very excited about both of them. So Jewell will be portrayed by none other than Pedro Pascal, who is a very, very busy man. His agent is doing that man wonders, and we thank him for it. Unfortunately, Wonder Woman 1984, bit of a misfire. He might have signed on before he read the script, before he got some directing cues to start dancing on the blue light. But Pedro Pascal is nonetheless an incredible talent, a wonderful actor who I think will bring so much pathos to the role of Jewell. I think he's going to nail it so much. And joining him will be Bella Ramsey as Ellie, and she is best known for playing little Lyanna Mormont on that show we just talked about a little while ago, Game of Thrones.
And she nailed that
scene
role.
stealer.
Yeah.
She was a scene stealer on Game of Thrones. So I think that those two, The Last of Us, I think at its core, at least as the first game is concerned, I still haven't played the second one, unfortunately. It's Jewell and Ellie. It's about those two people, and there are other people in that game that I'm sure will appear in the show as well, but it's fundamentally about those two and the relationship that develops between those two. And I think that we have two actors here who are really going to bring a lot to the table. And what does inspire confidence about this is that Neil Druckmann, who was the creative director of both video games, is producing the series, and it is being written and produced by Chernobyl's creator, Craig Mazin.
Oh my goodness. Oh.
So I think there's a lot of good things happening here.
Do I even want to fucking... Oh, God, that just... Ooh. It's going to be a... It's gonna be a long harrowing watch for sure.
Oh, it's gonna be fucked up. It's gonna be it's gonna be dark. It's gonna be a Chernobyl-esque, I think, level of
darkness and despair,
oppressiveness, within it. But and
it's gonna be good.
By the time this comes out, hopefully we'll be far enough removed from a global pandemic killing 500,000 Americans that it'll feel okay to go into a zone where you're okay with just being destroyed by some sort of television show that you're going to watch. But
couple of things.
Yes, let's hear them.
First thing is three things, several things, I should say.
All right, three.
Pedro Pascal,
the list goes on.
Awesome.
Yes.
Good. Okay. I think he'll nail it. I think he's a fabulous actor. And excited to see him in that role. Someone else that I think that would be good in that role would be also Poe Dameron. I think Poe Dameron would do a good job in that role as well. I see both of those guys kind of being able to nail Jewell.
They would have an appropriate level of beardiness for sure. So
correct. Bella Ramsey. Why? The only thing that she's a fabulous actress. I think she'll do an excellent job. You already had a very talented actress cast as that in the video game. Is she out of age? Is she out of age? Is that the thing?
Yes. Yeah,
okay.
I mean, Ellie is like 14 in the game, the first game, and Ashley Johnson is like probably close to being in her 30s, if not already there. She's probably at least late 20s. She's definitely too old to play the role in a live action setting.
That's the end of that. That's the end of that question. Third thing.
Mm-hmm.
I need whoever did the Alex God damn it, what's his name? Fuck, can't remember his name.
Can you give me a little clues? I can try to help you out.
Sunshine?
Alex Garland?
Alex Garland did the Alex Garland Annihilation.
I
need whoever did the makeup and the set design and everything for Annihilation to be involved with Last of Us. I need that. The whole sequence with the dude that like blasts
splayed out.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
That would be the perfect person or the perfect crew to do everything for The Last of Us.
Mm-hmm. I feel that. Yeah.
If I was on if I was in the crew in HBO, we need to contact these people. We need to get the talent involved, and we need to put them in this shit. I want to see a drama. I want to see horror, and I want to see I want to see drama and horror tied together in a way that's not jump scares or anything else. Maybe a couple jump scares here and there, but there's so much ripe for a good story here. I could not be more excited. Excellent cast from what we've seen. The people involved are very capable. I don't think I beat the first. God damn it! I don't think I beat the first game. I remember the intro sequence for that video game, and I didn't know if I was supposed to pick up the controller or not. Like I thought it was still part of the sequence. I remember
just
that,
the way it transitioned. Yeah,
vividly. I'm quite sure on how it ends. I think I know. I've never spoiled myself on it because I've always wanted to revisit it. But I think that there's from what I've played, Naughty Dog has a history of having ridiculous stories. And I am sure that this one ends with a gut wrencher. And I'm excited. If I see how the game ends in this show, if that's how I experience it, I think I'll feel fulfilled.
You feel satisfied by it, yeah.
You know what I mean?
It'll close the loop on it finally.
Yeah, so I'd be okay with that, even if I don't finish it before I finish the show. But I'm 110% on board. I couldn't be more excited.
Yeah, I think, as I said, it's tailor-made for being a television series, and I think HBO is a great place for it to land. As you know, I'm assuming that it's going to go beyond Craig Mazin. I think a lot of people that worked on Chernobyl, I have to imagine, are going to carry over to this, and I just feel like that's a good production team to work on this sort of thing. Get the Annihilation people involved. Yes, I agree with that, but I think that combine their powers together. Their
that's a superpower,
and I think you're good. I think you're good for sure. One last note: Ashley Johnson is 37 years old, so unfortunately,
holy shit, is she really
2 decades too old to play Ellie? But yeah,
we're talking about the same girl that played in the teenage pregnancy movie.
No, so also that's interesting. So obviously, when The Last of Us came out, people were thinking that the character of Ellie very much looked like Elliot Page.
Okay, I was meaning
as he
Page.
Then looked in Juno and such.
Juno, that's it. Yep.
But it was Ashley Johnson who did the mocap and voice
and Ashley
work
Johnson did a lot. She also did Ashley Johnson. Now that you say that, she was Ashley Johnson was fucking Star Wars. Is that the same person that did what's her name? I can't remember anybody's name, damn it.
I don't think she was involved in Star Wars. The only thing that I think I really know her from is she played the waitress in the first Avengers movie, just singular, just the one movie. She's done other stuff, but I don't know if she's had involvement in Star Wars to my knowledge. Maybe on the video game side of things that I
who did Clone Wars.
Oh, Ashley Eckstein.
That's
was Ahsoka.
Too many Ashleys.
Ashley's doing some voice work. It's very confusing. Bunch of white people. They all look the same.
We got derailed.
It's all good. So anyway, Last of Us, HBO. Looking forward to it. And are we also looking forward to Mortal Kombat? So we talked about it.
Mortal Kombat.
Sub-Zero. We talked about this on the 2021 episode. We mentioned that
Quite fervently.
We
were pretty excited about it.
we had the motion posters, but we were a day away from getting the trailer. So we just timed it not so well, unfortunately. Not our fault. We record when we want to record. HBO should have met our expectations and released the trailer a day earlier. But we're coming back to it. We're talking about the official restricted trailer. We got an R-band trailer for this. So, having seen the official restricted trailer, what are your feelings on the Mortal Kombat film that we're getting in just over a month's time, April 16th?
No way! I could not be more excited. This trailer here is scratching an itch. I'm fucking stoked.
I think look. I'm not going to go out and say that this movie is going to be good or anything like that, but I have a good feeling that I'm really going to enjoy this movie. I think it's going to hit, and I think you could say the same thing about most of the Mortal Kombat games, at least in terms of their stories. Like, I don't think anyone's going to say that the stories in those games, the recent ones particularly, the other ones, you could definitely just say they're bad. The recent ones, you can say that, like, they're not necessarily like good stories, but like they're like the best story modes that you can ask out of a fighting game. You know what I mean? And this feels like it's just kind of honoring. It doesn't feel like it's changing things too much. It feels like it's taking Mortal Kombat more or less as it is, as ridiculous as it is, and just embracing that and leaning into it, and then just making a movie out of it. You got pretty faithful costume designs, as we talked about with the posters. And you've got fucking gore. You've got, within the first 20 seconds of this, Jack's getting his arms fucking ripped off by Sub-Zero, which, that didn't happen in the video games, but like, he's got to get his metal arms somehow, so why not have it be some, crazy thing where his arms get frozen?
Mortality.
Pulled off. Fatality.
Fatality. What did it say? Mortality? Fatality. Yeah. That's it.
No, he came back, so he was all right. But this I feel like is going to bring a lot of the Mortal Kombat goods, and you're either going to be here for it or you're not.
And Goro's in the fucking trailer. We didn't get a
Goro pops out. We got a CG Goro. He's no longer the animatronic that we loved from the '95 film, but we got Goro. I mean, you got a lot of.
You have Scorpion back in like the day, like a pre-Scorpion Scorpio.
Yeah, we're getting Scorpion origin story. I mean, and you're getting them played by Hiroyuki Sanada, so like it's not a nothing cast. I think that's in this. I mean, some of them are more exciting than others, but
I have a feeling Jax is going to crush somebody's head. And like watching the trailer as we're talking about it, I have a feeling he's going to crush somebody's head with his metal arms.
He looks like there's a point I think in the trailer where it looks like he's about to just absolutely murder someone. And he probably will, because it's Mortal Kombat, and that's how it works: is you just murder people as violently as possible.
It looks like we get a smoke, which looks cool.
Maybe smoke. Could be Sub-Zero. Could be Noob Saibot. Who knows?
Noob Saibot. I can't, I think we talked about it for a good 15-20 minutes when we went through all the posters.
It was a while. So, it was certainly a while.
We have a trailer now, so I could talk about it for another 20 minutes, but I just watched it. The sequence where Sub-Zero cuts Scorpion and he turns his blood into like an icicle, and it's
just cool.
Yeah, it's fucking cool.
It looks like it's just hitting on the right points that you'd want out of a Mortal Kombat adaptation. It does. Which, again, is not to say that it's going to be good, but I just do think that, as someone that really, really enjoys the video game franchise, it feels like it's going where it needs to go with it, and great. I'm looking forward to it.
Question.
Yes.
Who is Kano punching at 2 minutes and 23 seconds in that
So
trailer?
here's one thing that I'm a little iffy about, because it certainly looks like a reptile. I don't know if you remember in the Deception, I think Deadly Alliance era of Mortal Kombat, they turned Reptile from just a green ninja into like a lizard-looking motherfucker.
Oh, you think we're getting that? You think
so?
Maybe.
It seems like we're getting that incarnation, and we're also getting him immediately killed within 2 minutes of appearing, which I'm not a fan of because I like my Reptile, and I like it when he's just a ninja, a green ninja. Just give me the green ninja. I'm fine with all the palette swaps of the ninjas. It's fine with me. Just give me 9 ninjas that look identical with slightly different colors on them. It's fine.
Yeah, Mortal Kombat.
I think it's Mortal Kombat. Unfortunately, you do what you could do what the 1995 film did, where you bring in some Joe Blow who is not a guy from the video game, so that he can get killed by Goro in the boxing ring or whatever, And it's like you need a fatality somehow. So it's either you bring in randos that just get killed, or you have Mortal Kombat characters just kill each other, and it's Mortal Kombat, so you can resurrect them for the next movie if you care that much about that character or whatever. So,
and that's cool.
I think that we're going to get these named characters killing each other, and I think that's fine. I might be pissed off if they're killing off Reptile and making him look like a fucking jobber, but that's the type of character. You bring a Baraka in there so that he can immediately just get killed. You can bring Stryker in there so he can immediately just get killed. I don't think either of them are in this film, but they're definitely fodder to just get fatalitied, within a sequel or anything like that. If such
cool.
a thing was to come
that's
about.
Okay. That's what Mortal Kombat is.
And maybe that's what happens with our nameless, or not nameless, with Cole Young, the audience insert, who I still am not loving. Like, just make him Johnny Cage.
He's got a Mortal Kombat tattoo or a Mortal Kombat brand or birthmark or something. So
yeah, that's what makes me like, oh, this might be a bad movie. But, as long as that's not like a huge focal point of it, like, fine.
I'll take
it's an invitation,
Like I said in the episode before, you can tell that somebody really liked Mortal Kombat, and they got the chops to make a Mortal Kombat movie. And I'll take it. For Mortal Kombat to be made in 2021, somebody evidently has a passion for Mortal Kombat. So
yeah. And this feels like it's going to be the most faithful adaptation that we're going to that we've gotten to date. Of only 2 attempts to be fair, but the budget's there. You can kind of get creative and out there and make it a hard R and violence and bloody and
throw it on a streaming service
of what it should be.
Yeah,
so it'll also be in theaters April 16th. To be fair, but
I'll watch it at home. But that's okay.
Yeah, that's fine. Thanks, HBO. We appreciate you. All right, so. That's the news. Tried to keep it reasonable. We still probably went longer than anticipated, but what's new? Let's talk about Judas and the Black Messiah. This was, like Mortal Kombat will be, one that debuted in theaters and HBO Max simultaneously. Actually, we're a little late to the party, admittedly, in covering this, so unfortunately, as of recording this, there's less than 2 weeks left to catch it on HBO Max. And by the time this goes up, it'll obviously be even less than that. But hopefully people have already had a chance to see it by the time that this episode goes up. Since it has been up there for a few weeks now, it is certainly, I think, well worth your time to do so, and I think that we'll be having a conversation, at least I expect, to that effect before long. So before we have that conversation, I will say it was written by Will Burson and Shaka King, directed by Shaka King, starring Daniel Kaluuya, LaKeith Stanfield, Jesse Plemons, Dominique Fishback, Ashton Sanders, and Martin Sheen. It's about an FBI informant who infiltrates the Illinois Black Panther Party and is tasked with keeping tabs on their charismatic leader, Chairman Fred Hampton. And note, that is not Chairman Fred Johnson for those keeping score at home. Non-spoilers.
Although one is associated, both are associated with,
I guess, radical groups labeled as terrorists,
That's correct.
Yeah, that's true. There is some connection there. Maybe that's why he was named as such. Maybe Fred Johnson was a loose riff on it. We'd have to ask James S.A. Corey. So yeah, non-spoilers. Tell me about your experience with Judas and the Black Messiah, which I guess, to be fair, you probably watched many weeks ago. You were probably amongst those people that watched it around the time that it dropped. So
correct.
It might be old news, might be old hat for you, but I want to know what you thought about it.
It is a little bit old hat. I feel bad because I feel like I'm watching things, and due to either my scheduling or your scheduling or one way or the other, we're unable to cover them as I'm watching them. So
sure.
I'm going on a couple weeks worth of memory, and I did watch it in 2 sittings. Okay. I try not to do that often, but I did with this movie. I I'd like to start off by Jesse Plemons. Hats off to this dude. This dude is making a career for himself in all sorts of different things. I was introduced to him in Breaking Bad. He was good in Breaking Bad.
Todd.
Fucking Todd. That heartless motherfucker, Todd.
Fucking Todd. God, Todd was the worst.
Todd was the worst.
Appropriately named. Anyone named Todd. Come on, what are you doing? What are you doing here? Parents knew. The parents have to know when they do it.
Fucking Todd. But he's making a career for himself. I think he's a fabulous actor. Really enjoyed him. I enjoy him every time I see him, I think. But LaKeith Stanfield, which I believe is the dude from that Radical movie we watched a couple years back.
Sorry to bother you.
Which was...
Yeah. It was a wild movie.
It was a wild movie, incredible movie. I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's also the same dude that's in... I think he's also in... God. Is he in Black Klansman?
No. He was in Get Out. He's kind of the...
Get Out, okay.
Well, both he and Daniel Kaluuya are actually in Get Out, as a matter of fact, but LaKeith Stanfield plays the one who... Daniel Kaluuya is the main character. He's the one who he first encounters, who tells him to get out. Kind of breaks through.
Yes, he was the one that was wholeheartedly programmed. Like he was in the... Yes.
Yep.
Okay, I remember. Yep. Fabulous actor. And then we
also
have...
in Atlanta on FX, for those who have seen the show. He's great in that.
He's also in Selma. Never saw Selma. But then we also have our Fred Hampton, Daniel Kaluuya. Kaluuya?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Kaluuya's good though,
Kaluuya is good. I do like me some Kaluuya. But he freaking nailed it.
Man. Yeah.
This is our guy from Black Panther. Is what I most it's what immediately I recognized him from.
And Get Out. He was the main character in Get Out.
That's true. He was the main guy in Get Out, wasn't he?
He was, yes.
Yeah. What a fucking actor, dude. And he was in Sicario on another note. Either way though.
Yeah. He was Emily Blunt's friend, right?
I think so.
Yeah. Smaller role in that one for sure.
Oh, what an incredible performance in this movie. Brought tears to my eyes. And it was man. I'm at a loss for words on his performance. It was just absolutely incredible. Sometimes people personify actual people, and I can't claim to know Fred Hampton, but I feel like his performance was so authentic. It was just so believable, and so grounded. And I feel like a lot of research and care was given into portraying Fred Hampton as an actual person. Mm-hmm. The way, you see him in other performances, the actual actor, and you see how he talks, and you see how he acts, and then you see how he acts in this movie, and it just feels so authentic. And it makes it so much more, it makes the movie so much more grounded and so much more staked in reality, and it makes it so much more heartfelt when things happen or things go a certain way or what have you. And man, it's really good. He nailed it. LaKeith Stanfield also nails the role of a. He does an excellent job of being a torn character, between two worlds, so to speak. And I think he nails his role as well. These two guys are tour de forces in this movie. They sell the movie, and they just do an incredible job. Also, hands off to Fred Hampton's wife. Is that Dominique Fishback?
Yeah. I think just girlfriend. I don't think they ever tied the knot officially, but yeah.
Okay, well, she was a powerful role as well. Those three they blew me away. And keep in mind too, I watched it in 2 sittings, so a lot of times what happens is the reason I don't like to revisit movies is you kind of like have to pick up emotionally where you leave off. And everything else, and I definitely do not like to watch movies that way. But for one reason or another, that's what happened to I can't remember exactly why I watched it this way. But when I revisited the characters on my return to the movie, it never missed a beat. And it's because I feel like I revisited actual people, if that makes sense. The movie, I think, was, like I said at the top of the episode, I don't know if this movie portrays people in a sympathetic way, to actual, like, I don't know if it manipulates people into thinking a certain way, or if I don't know if I've been blindsided by the way history was taught to me, or if I just didn't know enough about the topic. I don't claim to know anything. I think the Black Panthers are always personified as a terrorist organization. I think that's the way that it is.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was a deliberate smear campaign, I think, executed by probably FBI and I would imagine other levels of government.
And you find out so much about that. You find out how complicit they are about breaking the rules of what law and order is. It's the same exact thing that happened with Trial of the Chicago 7. You think that there's a sanctity of the court, and you think that, well, not so much with law enforcement, because I mean that's
these days people have a little bit of a different picture of things, but
right.
I think I don't know.
It's a higher thing than just police.
You're right. It goes to the top. It's the federal government. It's
exactly.
the FBI. It's
and you see where there's one sequence in this movie that's incredible. Just God, it makes you feel really shitty about everything, and we can talk about it in the spoiler section. But we'll
revisit it, certainly.
Martin Sheen does one thing, and I've seen this weeks ago, but that's the thing that stuck with me, is you have the person at the top who's just incredibly biased and racist and doesn't really give a shit about the optics or what's right or what's wrong or anything else, and he's just he's a big piece of shit.
Because he doesn't need to care about that sort of thing, because he can get away with it. And I think that's a through line of this film is, when you are in power, you can do whatever the fuck you want. And that's obviously kind of the idea of forming a revolution against the powers that be, is pushing back against that sort of mentality. And,
Yeah. And the key...
You see how that works out in this movie, and you see how it... still exists today, so.
And the key line, I think, in the movie, the thing that really stuck around with me, and I think it might be cliche or whatever, I don't know, but I feel like they harped on it because it was powerful, so I'm not going to say it was cliche, I take it back. But I am a revolutionary. Fred Hampton really harps on it. And the way it was delivered by Daniel Kaluuya, it was super, super powerful. And when things got hard in that movie, and the phrase came back around, and it brought people together, and everything else, it resonated and was powerful. And I think it's an incredibly powerful movie. And I really wish, and this movie included, because we're talking about this movie, but I watched 3 fucking movies over the course of the past 3 weeks.
Okay.
That would have completely changed my outlook on 2020. And I really, really fucking wish I would have watched these movies. And I really, really wish they would have came out in 2020. This movie included. Because I've watched some good shit the past 3 weeks.
Yeah, and the interesting thing is, I think they're all 3 films we're going to talk about. before long. I think we'll talk about them. Obviously we're talking about one of them here, but they're all movies that, like, for awards consideration, blah blah blah, are being considered 2020 films, and it's like, that's fucking bullshit. Like, we can't watch these movies until February. It's a 2021 film, like. Yeah. And so, like, we made a very concerted point, talking about, like, the types of films and the amount of films that we were able to see in 2020 that kind of generated the pool of things that we were considering for, the best of the year. And, like, there were some great films in there. I'm not disputing that. But, like, yeah, like, we're getting basically the very beginning of this year. I've seen 2 of the 3 films. I haven't seen the third one. But it's like, we're getting some really, really incredible shit that, like, obviously we were deprived of, that these movies would have come out last year in some fashion. We would have waltzed our happy asses to a theater, and I think it's kind of, look, like, great, we can finally see them. I'm glad that we can see them in some fashion, in some respect. It's good. HBO Max obviously is doing us wonders thus far this year, although, for the most part is doing us wonders this year. And one of the films is on Hulu, and the other one is on VOD, whatever, but, like, it's available, but at the same time, it's like, it's still not the same. And it's like, why did you need to drag it out so long? These movies are, as good as they are. I don't know. It just like,
and
just
I feel like they're important. They're just important fucking movies, Like, yeah. There's things that come out that are just like, as much as I like Marvel things, right? They're cultural things, and they're good to have and everything else. But then there's movies that come out that transcend that, and they're just important things to watch. They ground you to humanity, and they ground you to the people around you, and they grant you empathy, and that's one thing. The empathy. And the understanding that you have to other people is one thing that this movie certainly does. It's from a different generation, but it lends perspective on struggle, and struggle that I have no experience with, and that I besides this movie coming out, or besides me watching this movie, I would have no perspective on. And it's so incredibly important, and I am a better person having watching it. It's a fabulous movie. The acting was incredible. The cinematography was great. It was emotionally charged, and I can't say better things about this particular movie. I mean, it was outstanding. It was a tour de force. And like I said, when a movie actively changes you, when in any media, I mean, it could go for something you read, or something you read. Or I think I just said something you read, but something you listen to, or something you read, or something you watch. When something actively changes you, and it changes your perspective on someone else or yourself, I mean, that's the whole fucking point, and they fucking nailed it. I mean, they did an excellent job. So that's what I think about Judas and the Black Messiah. I'm a little long-winded. I apologize.
Well, that's not a problem at all. I'm glad you had a few things to say, even with the fact that you had as much to say as you did, given the length of time it's been since you've seen the film. I think speaks volumes in some ways. I watched the film yesterday for the first time, and I have plenty to say myself. I think, to kind of echo a certain thought I think that you were getting at, like, there's a lot of stuff that's coming in the very early part of 2021 that is just like, well, where the fuck was this? You know what I mean? And so my like quick kind of summary of this film is like, if this film did come out last year, then our 2020 episode looks a little different, is what I'd say about it.
Yeah.
I think we'd be having some different conversations, because this is a film that, we're seeing in February. We're going to count it as a 2021 film for the purposes of our podcast, but I will not be surprised if come next January, February, we're talking about this film still. You know what I mean? Because this is a film that hits hard and is honestly just really fucking good. obviously it's reviewing well. I expected it to be good. Both you and Enrique, I think had said good things about it around the time you guys had both watched it. I'm getting some I Am a Revolutionary texts coming my way, and I'm like, oh, I got to watch this shit. You know what I mean? But it doesn't compare to actually sitting down and having the experience of watching it. It can be, hyped for it and whatnot, but sitting down and being able to absorb this film was something else entirely. And so a lot of what I'm going to say is probably going to be very similar to, I think, how you felt about it, and I think this film, as a general kind of, if you don't know anything about the Black Panther Party, or, what is tainted by the bullshit you've probably heard all your life, this is the kind of film I think you need to sit down and watch. You owe it to yourself to kind of get this perspective on things, which I think is more raw and is more authentic and tells the truth in a way that, I think people haven't really seen it before, because that's how history was crafted, to tell you some lies about the radicalism and everything. And
the winners tell the story.
Yes,
and that's the thing.
Absolutely.
That's the thing with history. The people
the winners were in such a disproportionate place of power that of course they were going to be the fucking winners. I think that this film highlights that. I think so. You know what I mean? So I think, the story here is incredibly compelling. Obviously it is based off of real life history, and sometimes you can write as many stories as you want. You can write as many fiction stories as you want, but sometimes hitting on things that actually happened, like just hits harder, because sometimes it feels unreal that something like this could have happened. And then you think about it and you think, 1960s, all right, that's not that long ago. I know we talked about it with Trial as well. It's the same principles of just been like, Jesus Christ, this happened in the 1960s. Like, we know people that, fucking lived through this. And, and it's not hard. It's just kind of wild when you put it in that perspective.
Exactly. The perspective is unreal. Like I in my area, I'm surrounded with retirees. And I hear racist shit all the time. And I know this isn't a political thing or whatever. It's not hard to imagine why people are skewed the way they are, especially when you say the way the politics were handled when this was handled, And it's heart-wrenching that people had to endure this sort of shit. Like, it's just, it's not, and for the things the Black Panthers did that were right or wrong, okay, or whatever, okay, it's not hard to imagine why people acted the way that they did. Of course they did, and we're so incredibly blessed to live in the time that we live. With all the shit that we're living through right now, okay, it's easy to say like we got it real bad, but you look 30, 40 years ago, 50 years ago or whatever, people had it fucking terrible. Really fucking bad. Yeah, I mean, I'm sorry I cut you off.
No, that's all right.
It blows me away when we watch these kind of movies and I keep walking away with the same fucking perspective. I mean, Chicago 7 did the same thing. People had it really shitty. Like, Yeah.
And it's the thing that...
It's fucking disgusting. It's terrible.
And it should be because it is, I mean, maybe that's a dumb thing to say or an obvious thing to say, but like, it should make you feel bad. It should make you angry. It should make you frustrated, like that's because it is. It's because it's all of those things. And we're fortunate enough, you and I are fortunate enough that we do not experience that. And obviously we didn't live through this time to experience that. But, even if we had, we would have been just fine. We would have been just fine. You know what I mean? And a lot of the same concerns I think that were present in the 1960s are still present today. Like, maybe things are slightly better, maybe, in some respects, but these are still concerns that are ever prevalent, and I think this one particularly,
we see it on the daily news. We see it every fucking day, every day. And that's what's more infuriating about the whole thing. Like, you know, you can play the card where it's like, well, things have gotten better, and yes, things have
in some respects they have. Yes.
In some respects they have. It's not so emboldened. But it has been emboldened. And that's the thing. It's been
certainly recently, yeah.
It's been brought back to the surface, and it's like, why? Like, you know, I don't know. I'm at a loss of words. It's
yeah. Well, and that's fine, you know, because this is the kind of film that you know, you can't have answers for, you know, like you can't be in a position to think, well, you know, it happened because of X or it happened because of Y. It's like, you should not have answers for why this is our history. You know what I mean? Like, you should be in a position to say, oh, I can't believe that this is our history, or I'm appalled that this is our history, but you can't.
And it should not
there's
be
no
our
rationalizations.
There
are no rationalizations for it. There are no, you know, answers for it. There is no way to, yes, there's no, you know, you can't look at this and say, oh shit, this is fine. You know, we can keep on with this and we can make this our future or anything like that. Like, you have to look inward and say, what's wrong here?
And
how do we fix it?
The best
what do we do?
part about the time that we live in, the things are still prevalent and things still happen, and they're not so that they're obviously very frowned upon compared to when this movie was taking place.
Mm-hmm.
But we live in a good time where we can evaluate these things, and where people can get that sense of emotion from a movie that's made as well as this movie is, and we can take from that and we can change. It provides an opportunity to improve.
You hope that this serves as something that can move the needle in some direction. There are people that will never be convinced, and it is what it is, I suppose. And obviously there's been a microscope on things over the past 4+ years. But, you know, there are people out there that I think, you know, that can see something like this and learn something from it and gain something from it. And, you know, I am not saying that it's okay that it's come to that it requires like a fucking 2-hour movie to make people kind of stop and think.
But the
like,
movie can be made.
It is what it is.
The movie can be made. The movie is a widespread success, and that's a positive move in the right direction. The fact that it's it's widely accessible, and that goes back to my original point that there's important movies being made and it's available and you can watch it. And I wholeheartedly think you should watch this movie.
Yes, I agree with that. So let me try to encapsulate some of my thoughts building off of this conversation that we've, you know, we've built on, that we've built up, I guess. This is a film that's worthy of being watched. You should watch this film, you know, and I think that the story, if you want to put it that way, the history of fucking, you know, the people in this movie, I think that's the reason you should watch it, because it's important to know these things. But I think what's going to draw you in for 2 hours are, you know, the things that make a film good. And I think that this is a film that hits the mark and all of those things. You know, it's not I mean, I just think from top to bottom, it's an incredible film. I think it's an exceptionally well directed film, because I think you know, Aaron Sorkin, I commended him for the script of Trial, and I didn't think he was the best director of 2020 or anything like that. You know, Trial of Chicago 7, I love that film. I think it's a great film. It's very much a courtroom drama. This is a film that I think weaves a lot of different elements into it in a way that something like Trial didn't. You know, where you're talking about very different environments. You know, you have, you know, the FBI perspective, and that sort of ties into the Black Panther Party perspective. Then you just have the full-on Black Panther Party perspective, and then you have confrontations between members of the party and police, and you have, you know, gunfire, and you have shootouts, and you have kind of things that, you know, it really, it does, you know, I think from scene to scene, it kind of shifts, you know, its perspective and does a lot of things. I think it hits on a lot of different points in telling that story, and they're all done really well. You know, from a directorial perspective, I think that it really does that all really, really well. I think from a perspective of looking at the cinematography, like it's shot really well, so it's compelling to watch from that perspective. And then what really makes it all work as well as it does is it's all the performances in this film. There's not a weak link in this. To start with, probably my personal weakest link, Martin Sheen was hard to watch in this film, being in the process of watching The West Wing, where he plays, the President Bartlett, who is, like shit. He's like, the president that everyone wants, the president to be, to see him, transform with the help of some prosthetics into J. Edgar Hoover and be an absolute piece of shit.
See, and I didn't think J. Edgar Hoover, I don't know, my entire history's been fucking, like, rocked, right? Like, I think, like, you hear J. Edgar Hoover, and at least from, like, topical notes, you think that that's the guy that established the FBI and established this and that, and he seems like an important figurehead. And then you get this, and it's like, ooh, what a piece of shit.
Yeah, I think
you would have a lot more insight on this than me. So,
it goes back to everything that we've already talked about in the sense that, today you have more perspective on these things. At the time, you didn't. And so I think at the time that Hoover was in control of the FBI, there was no real reason to question it unless you were involved in these, organizations and such. But I think for the general masses who just bought into the propaganda that the FBI sold, they didn't really have any reason to question it or to suspect anything otherwise. And I think now, when you have the benefit of hindsight where you're, half a century removed from a good chunk of this bullshit, like you can look back at it with a totally different lens and think, what? That was okay. People didn't think to question that. And it's like, no, even today, you think,
what do we think to question now?
Goes to what you say about, you think about the sanctity of the court and you think about the FBI and like, you think like, you should put your trust into the institutions of your country, which is, thought to be this bastion of free speech and, and high society or whatever. And it's just, there are kinks,
to say the least.
So, it's not exactly what we hold it out to be or what we hoped it to be or what our founding fathers wanted it to be. We've drifted certainly far from the ideals that we sought this country to be. And that's not to say that those guys were exactly perfect or anything, but,
And maybe that's what makes America great. It's the fact that we're constantly putting everything under the microscope and making corrections. Maybe that's that's one way of looking at it. But anyway, Martin Sheen was hard to watch in this. He
because of the West
He's
Wing.
The most hateable fucking person on
and because he played an absolute piece of shit. But beyond Martin Sheen, I agree with Jesse Plemons being very good, in his role. But I think. And LaKeith was good, too. I think LaKeith was kind of playing a version of a character that he plays a lot, but it worked really well for this character who is kind of not really into the whole thing, but then he maybe gets sucked into it a little bit more than he expected to, and what does that look like? I think he was very good in that kind of role. But I think the two standout performances for me were Dominique Fishback, who played Deborah Johnson, Fred Hampton's girlfriend, and she was great. We'll talk about her in spoilers. But Daniel Kaluuya owned this movie for me. Hands down the best performance in this film. Someone who I think LaKeith was good again, but I don't think he showed range in terms of what I've seen him do previously. Daniel Kaluuya was a different fucking person. This was the Chadwick Boseman, James Brown level type of performance for me.
For
where
sure. Yes.
He just became a different person for this movie. And that's really incredible to see. And he became Fred Hampton, who, I'm just making the same comparison again. James Brown was a charismatic man, someone who was magnetic, who you wanted to just watch him, Fred Hampton, I think, was the same way.
Yes,
he was
absolutely.
very charismatic. He was someone
110%.
that people turned out in droves to listen to him talk. They wanted to hear him talk. They found him to be such a compelling presence that's I think why his message resonated with a lot of people. Also that, and the fucking oppression and shit, that sort of thing is part of it as well. They felt what he was saying.
But he wasn't only he wasn't the biggest part of this movie, and I don't know if I'm dipping into spoilers, is when he went to the Confederacy or whatever.
He went outside of the Black Panther Party, he started reaching out to other people that
were oppressed, the poor.
Oppressed, yeah.
And they marched into a place that had a Confederate flag behind a church or behind a cross.
Right.
You know? And he was able to captivate that crowd as well. And throughout the movie, this dude you as a person watching the movie was hanging on every line that he delivered.
Yeah. And when he's giving speeches, you're hanging on it. Even when he's, a little bit cooler and calmer, when he's interacting with,
Dominique.
Yeah.
Just when he's sitting back smoking a cigarette and just talking and he's just a captivating fucking person.
You get it. And he captured the essence of, maybe even more than the essence of like what, someone like Fred Hampton ought to be, in terms of like you get the appeal, you understand all of it, through the virtue of this single performance where Daniel Kaluuya just became Fred Hampton, for a couple months shooting this film, and the magnetism is just radiates from the screen in terms of just anytime he's on screen, you're glued to it, Right. I think the rest of the film is just as compelling, you know what I mean? Like it is.
It takes care of itself.
It's not to say that it's only good when he's on screen, but when he is on screen, it elevates it in such a way that you're just like, this is, you're watching something special, I think, when you watch this film. And I think Daniel Kaluuya is the anchor of this film in terms of making it work as well as it does. I think it would have worked I think it would have worked well with someone else in that role, but I think that his performance is what takes it to kind of the next level for me. So yeah, on the whole, Judas and the Black Messiah, I don't remember what the first movie we covered was last year. I'm going to take a quick glance because I don't think it was anything of this caliber. You know what I mean? Like, yes, maybe this is a 2020 film, whatever. The first movie I think that we actually covered was, here we go, Birds of Prey. You know what I mean? So it was fine, but this is this is next level type shit, I think that we have here. So we're really kicking 2021 off, I think, with proper coverage, at least as far as this podcast is concerned, with a bang. Something that's really, really fucking good. So my hats are off for Judas and the Black Messiah. I think we can go ahead and do a consensus recommendation on this one.
Very yes.
Mm-hmm. Without a doubt, very yes. Honestly, we've probably kind of covered what we would already say in recommendation. It's a story worth watching, and it's a film that's...
It's not even that. It's important to watch.
So yes.
It's an important watch for... Yeah, it's an important watch for everyone. I mean, really.
Yeah.
Old, young, it doesn't matter. You owe it to yourself to have the perspective. You researched the movie, which I did, to surface levels. I think there were certain things that I sought out to research, and you owe it to yourself to look into it. You owe it to yourself to watch the movie and then research what you see in the movie, and then research how grounded it is in reality. You might have predisposed opinions about how things went down or how people are or what have you, but you owe it to yourself to research it to the point where you're just comparing what you're seeing on screen to what happened in history. And I think that's something that everyone with any sort of opinion, if you're going to have an opinion, you owe it to yourself to have the perspective. I think that's the best way to put it.
Yeah.
So I think it's a culturally important movie to watch, which is something that is very seldom handed out. I don't think that many films have that kind of impact.
Yeah.
But it's an American historical film grounded in history, and it's important to watch. So that's my recommendation.
I'm just gonna quickly co-sign everything you just said. It's a very yes film. Watch it. You owe it to yourself. I wish we had covered it sooner so that our listeners had more of a window to catch it on HBO Max. But even when it's off the service, it'll be up for rental and eventually purchase before long. By the end of the year, within a few months, I'm sure. Even so, you'll have the chance to see it. So if you can't catch it, eminently, catch it when you can. It's gonna be worth it. And it's important to do so, I guess, at the same time. So with all that said, let's do full spoilers for Judas and the Black Messiah. Andrew's raising his arms. I don't know if he wants to get into something right now. If he
means
does.
It's good. I'll dive into full spoilers. I'm just going to dump it all out real quick. Okay. For the sake of our listeners, you've had a lot of hours of listening, so I'm going to try to dump it out real quick.
I tried to space it out over a couple of weeks, so hopefully they're doing okay.
So, Martin Sheen's a piece of shit.
Yes.
Martin Sheen asks
J. Edgar Hoover.
I
think Martin Sheen might be a treasure.
Martin Sheen might be whatever. Okay, Martin Sheen might be fine. Okay, but J. Edgar Hoover asks Jesse Plemons' character. I can't remember his name.
Jesse Plemons' character is fine. I don't remember either.
He boils it down real quick. He's like, no bullshit. What are you gonna do when your little girl brings home a black man?
Yes, and his little girl who is
fucking like 3 years old or some shit.
No, I think she's some amount of months old. I think she's less than a year old at that point. I think he has a son that's a few years old.
He's like, why are you asking me this? And he's like, I'm just asking. What are you gonna do when she gets older and she brings home a black man? That right there shook me, dude. I hear it resonated with me so strongly that it actually brought a tear to my eye. What a moment for things to just be exposed and the way it was exposed. And I really don't know how to put it into words. It's heart-wrenching, it's disgusting, it's terrible, and you still see, like, you probably don't see it. You're in a much different part of, like, America than I am, I guess. I don't know. And
Philadelphia is a little more liberal than Dade City, Florida.
Yeah, and I don't want to say that Dade City, Florida is like deep Mississippi or Alabama, because it's not.
No,
okay,
it's not. Yeah, sure.
But I'm still exposed to it. And it just makes you, I don't know, it just makes you really, I don't even know how it makes me feel, to be honest with you. I have trouble, like, breaking it down. But it hit me in such a way that it just I don't even know how it broke me down. But that's the mentality. All I'm going to say is that's the mentality that a lot of people have. And it's wrong. It's flat out wrong. And I don't know how people justify that sort of reasoning. Mm-hmm. I'm baffled by it. I'm angered by it. I'm disgusted by it. And it just makes it when it's put so plainly, a lot of people dance around their biases and their prejudices and that sort of thing in real life. But when it's put so plainly in film, and when it's laid out just bare, it really makes you wonder about people and how they think and everything else. And when Martin Sheen delivered it, kudos to Martin Sheen for being a brilliant actor. Okay, and kudos to Jesse Plemons for being a brilliant actor. It lays it bare, and that's where it's at, and that's where all the problems arise, and it's just, it's just a powerful moment. I don't know how else to put it. It makes you think. It makes you sad. It makes you angry. And I don't know. I don't have a whole lot. I don't know how to put it into words. But that moment right there, amongst a lot of others, don't get me wrong, but that moment stuck out. It stuck out with me for 3 weeks. That's going to be the moment that sticks around with me in this movie for probably forever. That's going to be the moment I remember. For one reason or another, I don't know why. But I don't know. Maybe you can put it into words. I don't know. I'm sure that moment stuck out to you.
Yeah, I mean, it was hard to watch, I think, there's no bones about, J. Edgar Hoover in terms of how he's depicted in this film and how he was as a person to that point. Whereas I think with Jesse Plemons' character, it's a little bit, he's obviously...
he's conflicted.
He's a law and order kind of man. He's obviously, he's working for the FBI. He's complicit in all this, clearly. But, to that point, you do see some sort of gears turning, I guess, to say, he's not just answering the company a line immediately. He's clearly uncomfortable with the situation. But, I think it goes to show that, even someone who he maybe feels like he's doing the right thing, he's still in a position of power. He's still, someone that manipulates, as we, eventually manipulates Bill in such a way that Bill sets the stage for
the assassination of
fucking killed in the middle of the night when he's, dead asleep.
You
Because
shoot
he's
a
under the
fucking
influence
dude.
of shit.
Oh, you shoot a dude when he's fucking sleeping.
Yeah.
Who does that? Who does that?
Yeah.
Oh man, and it happened.
Yes.
That's the thing.
And here's where it ties into the conversation of propaganda and looking at it different ways. I think for the longest time, maybe not the longest time, but at least for some time, people thought of that as like a shootout between Fred Hampton and the Black Panther Party, and his residents
raided
versus
his house and shot him
versus the people that raided. And it's like no, I think there's something like the FBI or whoever was officially classified as being involved shot like 90 plus bullets, and then the Black Panther parties and anyone in that shot like one, something like that. I don't know if those are the exact figures, but it's like we can clearly tell this is a very one-sided thing that's happening right now. It's just a straight up fucking assassination. It's not a that's it.
It's
a targeted assassination of someone who was 21 years old. The film makes a very concerted point of making that known, with kind of the text at the end of 21 years old. Daniel Kaluuya is not 21 years old, so they portrayed these characters a little bit older than they actually are. But I think that it focuses on that, and that's insane. For someone like Fred Hampton to have had the reach that he had. Anna just texted me and said it was 99 bullets to 1 bullet, so I was close with my figures. I had a quick fact check on it. She's listening in the background, but that's what we're here for. Some fact check.
It's infuriating.
But
that people had to,
99 to 1. I mean, anything 99 to 1 is not a two-sided thing. You know what I mean? So
now you did have the you had other things that happened in the movie.
Yes, that were clearly more of a targeted attack or retaliation, or exercise of frustration, that sort of thing. Which killing people is not good. I'm not going to go on the record and say that killing people is good. Obviously, anyway you spin it.
But the government viewed Fred Hampton. I almost said Fred Johnson.
Almost. Stop yourself.
I stopped myself. the government viewed Fred Hampton as a clear threat to whatever they had going on, and they targeted him. And that domestically, that I just don't know how you know, it just rocks everything that you know. You know, I mean,
it should. It fucking should. You know,
it's you know, I'm not I don't have an American flag on my fucking wall, okay? I'm not like you know, I don't know. I don't know how to put it. But I do, you like to think that you stand for certain things, and then
America holds itself out as, you know, being land of freedom and blah blah blah, and you know what I mean. It's like that's a facade. I mean, it's fine if you're white, you got it, you're good. You know what I mean? So
I guess that's it. But it's I haven't watched the movie in like 3 weeks, and just sitting here talking about it, I got it. Well, of course, my right eye is the one I ran a cattle prod through, so it's a little weak. But it's got a little tear welling up in the corner of it. Like it's a movie like this just builds empathy. You know, you can feel what the problem is, and it's God damn it, man, it's terrible. Yeah. It's fucking terrible. When she has the baby and she's pregnant and she has to escape they burn their fucking place down. They haven't done anything wrong at that point. Of course they're at the, I guess they pull everybody out right after the shotgun thing. They're in their building, right. and they're shooting down. Yeah. They target headquarters, and the Black Panthers pull guns on authorities, and they start shooting, which is, you know, you know, it's one of those things where it gets, you have the authorities putting so much oppression on a certain group of people. That's the whole thing I've been talking about the whole time is I don't know if it's being portrayed in a sympathetic way, because I just don't know. You know what I mean? Because you obviously, if you have a bunch of armed people shooting at cops, then what's going to happen? You know what I mean? In one aspect of it, of course, that's what's going to happen. But then they go and they torch the whole fucking building, which
after it's been vacated. Like, you know, there's no active threat happening at that point.
Exactly.
It's just very much fuck you, you know, kind of
bingo. That's it. Message, you know, and then you cross the lines. You know, we've got everybody out of the building. Now we're just going to torch your ship just because.
Right.
And you know, it's I don't know, man. It's a really troublesome movie. Rocked me down. It just I don't know.
Yeah, it should. You know, I
guess that's the whole point.
That's the kind of film that should, you know, make you feel uncomfortable and feel frustrated and angry and pissed off and upset, and you know, that's
what they sought out to do, and they did it.
You know,
so
yeah, you know, that's the emotion it's trying to elicit, and you know, that's a fraction of what
they feel
on a daily basis, but still feel, I think, to some extent too. So, you know, yeah. So, I think just...
Oh, before you keep going.
Yes.
The one thing that stuck out to me that actually made me cry the most, because I cried multiple times during this movie. Like I say, I cry. I don't know. I just got some fluid tear glands, I guess. I don't know, but I cry a lot. I cry.
They're susceptible is all.
Yes, I'm a very empathetic person. I'm realizing this now. Anyways, the one thing that stuck out with me, I think the most, is when Fred Hampton put
that's the one.
He gave his bail money, or he gave his money that that was intended for him to escape authorities and get extradition or whatever, to a group of people to establish a hospital for underprivileged folks in the neighborhood that he was in, which I think was Chicago or something. I'm not.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
And I tried to look it up, and I had a hard time. I had a hard time finding exactly where that place was located or whatever. But I actually spent probably close to an hour trying to find exactly what it was, and I think it was something at one point. I don't know if it's still there. I think that's what I was looking up. And that's what resonated with me the most. The day before his execution, the day before his assassination, he dedicated a place for people to get care and to get health care and to just better the lives of the community that he was involved with.
Yeah. So I just did a quick glance. It's the Spurgeon Jake Winters Free People's Medical Center, which I don't know if it's, still in operation in some form or another, but I think that's,
that's what it was. And I wanted to see if that was a thing, and it was a thing. I know it was a thing. I don't know if it's still a thing, and I don't know if it's still at the same spot or whatever.
Right.
But that's huge. Rather than escape and leave, he dedicated that money towards the betterment of the community that he was a part of. And that's something that actually happened. And that's what makes me think that this thing isn't skewed towards just pure sympathetic, like a pure sympathetic alignment of these people. It actually happened, and that's what the person stood for, and it's huge. And that's what resonated with me the most.
Yeah.
Because that guy was that I want to say that's the person that went out and he got in the shootout with the cops because his friend was killed.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And Fred Hampton visited with the mother and talked to the mother. And listen, there's more to this person than just what his outrage was.
Right. How he died, he's more than that. Yeah.
Yeah. And it was a very powerful moment in the movie. And I think that's one of the most powerful moments in the movie for me. Because it wasn't like one of the main characters, but it was, somebody he was associated with, and he staked his life on dedicating that money and dedicating what he stood for this person that was just an associate of his, essentially, So, powerful part. That was the one that I looked up the most, was the hospital. So anyways, free reign. You got free reign. I won't interrupt anymore.
I just want to make a few more points. I think a lot of the film kind of speaks for itself. I don't need to recap it to let the impact of it, hit as hard as it should. But I will add a couple thoughts from Anna, who sent a couple other things to follow up on our 99-1 conversation. The one shot may have been, was likely a postmortem shot from someone who was shot through the door. Obviously, nerves fire, and if you're holding the trigger, it might happen, certainly after you're being shot. So that seems likely. 99-1, any way you spend it, I think still speaks for itself. And you're talking about, in that scenario, you're talking about Fred Hampton, a 21-year-old who was being shielded by his girlfriend at the time, maybe fiance, whatever, who was basically 9 months pregnant, and just insanity. That's the context of, they're just shooting in there with no regard for human life at that point, and it's a miracle that she managed to survive that encounter, I think, in and of itself. And she did give birth to Fred Hampton Jr. So one thing that's interesting, I think my fact, it's not a fun fact because none of this movie is fun. I don't think that's a good way of putting it. But Aku and Jerry, who is who was Fred Hampton's girlfriend, who had his child. She and Fred Hampton Jr., I think, were credited as cultural experts. I'm not sure if that's the exact way that they had it in the credits. But they were heavily involved, I think, in the making of this film. And she specifically spoke to Dominique Fishback, who was portraying her, obviously at a younger point in her life, and said that during the scene where Fred Hampton is assassinated, that she shouldn't cry. Because she didn't do it when it actually happened in her life. She felt it was an important show of strength for the character and for Black women. And so that's how they shot the scene. The assassination happens out of focus in the background. You have Dominique Fishback in the forefront of the frame, unflinching, not crying, just feeling it happen, behind her. She knows what's happening. She obviously hears it. She feels it. She experiences it. But,
she doesn't get the gratification of a tear.
Yeah, I mean, just such a horrifying moment, but one that I think that, I think that was really, really an impactful way, I think, of showing that thing. Not giving the murderers the satisfaction, as kind of you said, and as Anna has now said to me, relaying some information from her. So I have one more thing, and then Anna has one more thing that she's contributing virtually. I'll start with hers, actually. Apparently, Fall Out Boy wrote a song about Fred Hampton Jr. I don't know what it's called. I might be able to inform you of that in a minute. And about he was convicted on some sort of bullshit charges. I don't know the specifics of that, but Fred Hampton Jr., unsurprisingly, like his father, was a target of bullshit because of who he was. So Fall Out Boy wrote a song about him. The only thing that I think, the last thing I guess that I would offer up, as I watch the ... tick in on my phone, we'll see if it, You're Crashing But You're No Wave is the name of the song, if anyone wants to look it up. There you have it. The only thing that I would say, Dan and I talked about it after we watched yesterday, and she said that, Bill O'Neill, LaKeith Stanfield's character, is a coward. And I agreed with her. It's like,
Who is this?
Obviously, this is LaKeith Stanfield's character,
okay.
the informant for the FBI, basically. Like, he obviously was in a shitty position and tried to,
he was
get
exploited.
Yeah, he was exploited. Yes, I agree. But at a certain point, it's a matter of, exercising your principles versus just being self-interested. And I think at a certain point, you could certainly say that he was self-interested. And
he fucking
that's
killed
fair
himself.
Enough. That's fair enough. He killed himself. That's true. But what I was going to point out, something that I think paints this movie, I think, too, in a different light, and I think as it paints the actual real life and events in a different life. When, the movie opens, he poses as a federal officer, he poses as an FBI agent or whatever, shows the badge, tries to steal the car. How old do you think that Bill O'Neill was when he tried to do that?
How old was he?
In real life. He was 17 years old. 17 years old when that shit happened. He's a fucking kid when he did that, when the FBI swindles him into this, spy on the Black Panther Party. And, so like, it may be, like, and it's just one of those things, like, he's a fucking kid. Fred Hampton was not technically a fucking kid, but he was a fucking kid. He's 21 years old. You ask me now, I think someone that's 21 years old is still a fucking kid. It's just insane that you have the FBI, basically taking advantage of a 17-year-old, to do this sort of thing, and then you have the FBI assassinating a 21-year-old.
I mean, think about it. I have a 17-year-old person that I can infiltrate what I think is a terrorist organization. What I'm going to paint as a terrorist organization. I can manipulate a 17-year-old. He's got his entire life ahead of him. I can manipulate this person into doing what I want to do with them.
Yeah.
It's not a difficult thing.
Yeah.
Man, I don't know.
I mean, yeah.
You can say yes, I understand at a certain point you have to stand for your values and you have to stand for this or that. But they did a very convincing job of putting LaKeith Stanfield as a sympathetic character.
No, and I feel that, and I think obviously the movie is designed to get that sort of thing. But I honestly think it's more impactful when you think about how young someone like that was.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, and I think that I think that each LaKeith Stanfield and Daniel Kaluuya were about 10 years older than the characters they played, roughly speaking. You know, so it's just kind of crazy. You know,
it paints a different light, certainly.
You know, it's just it's hard to fathom, I think, honestly.
It's easy. I don't know. Anna's not here. Anna puts up pretty good arguments. So, I don't know. She's not here, so I can't argue with her perspective on LaKeith Stanfield's character. But I don't know. I'm sympathetic to both Chairman Fred Hampton and the person that ultimately resulted in the assassination of Fred Hampton.
I mean, I think I made the point, you know, too, of like, it's not to excuse the actions of Bill O'Neill and you know, being complicit with the FBI and giving this information. And like, I think that, you know, a 17-year-old kid given the opportunity to say, not go to prison for 5 years plus and do something that, like, okay, I don't really believe in this shit anyway. Like, fine. Like, I think that's perfectly, you know, a reasonable thing for someone in that position to think is a fine thing to do.
And you have the weight of the federal government on top of you. You got the weight of the federal fucking government on top of you.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes. And I think that, you know, him, obviously, whether he's conflicted or not, you know, slipping the stuff into Fred's drink, you know, so that he's basically unable to do any, you know, put up any sort of resistance, you know, when he's getting killed in cold blood. Like, that's really, really fucked up. The thing is, like, whether that happened or not, the FBI was going to kill Fred Hampton. You know what I mean? Like, it's not because of Bill O'Neill that Fred Hampton got killed. It's that the manner in which he was killed was a result of Bill O'Neill's actions to a certain extent. But in my mind, I think there's no changing how history would have played out. You know, in the long run, I guess. So
that raid on his home was going to happen, regardless of if he was sleeping or not.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Something was going to happen where, you know, it just, they made it their prerogative and they had the power to do whatever the fuck they wanted.
That's the weight of the system. The weight of the system,
so they
man.
did. So anyway, I think that's really all I have on Judas and the Black Messiah.
Anna's probably a fan of Rage Against the Machine, isn't she?
I don't know if it's really her genre of music per se.
Do what?
But,
she totally stands for
I think she probably sympathize with the message. You know, the raging against the machine.
All right, so what do we got? We're gonna move on from spoilers. We're
gonna move on from spoilers into the listener's corner. So, listener's corner, we have many takes on many things from Bruce Brown, avid participant of the listener's corner. And to be fair, this is obviously accrued over the course of probably close to a couple months, I guess, at this rate, a month and a half, maybe I'll say. So anyway, he has been busy. I'm gonna run down the list and kind of just read some thoughts from the man himself, Mr. Bruce Brown. He says Richard Jewell is an excellent movie, directed, produced by Clint Eastwood. Factual-based depiction of the Atlanta Centennial Park bombings during the Summer Olympics. He mentions that I was 4 at the time, so I don't really remember him all that well. And the FBI/media. The FBI doing dumb shit yet again, naming Jewell as the primary suspect. So, not a fan of Clint Eastwood these days, but I remember the movie coming out, didn't actually see it, but
he makes good movies.
We have at least one perspective saying that it's an excellent movie, so there you have it. He watched all 3 seasons of Cobra Kai, says they're really good, bit repetitive at times, bit over the top, but he's amazed after 30 plus years that there was an interest in it, in reviving the Karate Kid, but that they managed to get back a lot of the old cast members and make something of it. So agreed. Still watching season 2 of Cobra Kai myself. He started The Righteous Gemstones on HBO, only 1 episode in, but said it looks good. Hanna Season 2 said he liked the first season, but that this season seems even better so far.
Wow.
Ford v Ferrari says was excellent. New shows on Discovery Plus are really good. He specifically names Magnolia Table, good lord, Bobby and Giada in Italy, Rehab, Attic Rescue, or Baba. Baba's fine for one of those, I'm sure. The Little Things, he says, should be renamed to The Boring Things. Jared Leto is the worst, he says.
Fair enough.
The Expanse season 5 finale was powerful and emotional. I don't know if you finished Expanse. Maybe we can talk about it.
I
shortly,
did.
Powerful and emotional, he says. Picard, he started on CBS All Access. Now Paramount Plus as of a day ago from recording. So far, very good. Points out that Sir Patrick Stewart, is 79. Impressive. Engage. Number 1. WandaVision, talked a little bit about that. We'll talk about that on another episode before long. At the time he submitted this, it was only through 3 episodes. I think 4 episodes. He said 3, but I think it was technically 4. Answered some of the questions and confusion over what the fuck's going on, and that's what he has for that one. Got a couple other ones. Malcolm and Marie over on Netflix. Love both actors. Both actors being John David Washington and Zendaya. Truly talented. 2 hours of dysfunctional relationship nuclear meltdown will make you stay single forever. I liked it, but what a couple of mental patients, he says. Some other thoughts on Picard, more thoughts on Picard. I guess you'd watch a little further. Season 1 was very good. A few cameos from the Next Generation. Overall, well written and excellent acting. Seasons 2 and 3 coming up. Some more compliments on Patrick Stewart being 79 and still kicking ass. And then The Undoing is the last thing he shouts out. The Undoing with Nicole Kidman and Hugh Grant. It's an HBO show. It was quite good. 6 episodes, so not a huge commitment. Kept you guessing as to who done it. He guessed wrong. So there's that. Oh, and he's watching Star Trek Discovery, which he's enjoying even more than Picard. So he's a busy man. He's doing many things.
Yeah, it's retired life, man.
That's the beauty of it. We'll get there one day, right? So lots of things. I could have split that over the course of the next few episodes that we're going to record on, but I figured between some guest appearances and whatever else that comes along, I might as well, kind of front load that a little bit and get that out. I'm sure he's been waiting to listen to an episode to hear all those things kind of to said out loud. So hopefully I did them some justice from their emails. So thank you for writing in. If anyone wants to join the Listener's Corner and have a whole few minutes to themselves just like that, talk about some movies, TV shows, anything they've been up to, watchreviewrepeat@gmail.com. I do check it out. That's how I just saw those. So have at it, Listener's Corner. Beyond that, have you been up to anything that you want to talk about? Bear in mind, we will have plenty of time over the next few episodes to talk about some shit, so you don't need to spend 30 minutes here if you don't want to. But if there's anything immediate you want to shout out, feel free.
All right, so I've watched The Voice. The Voice is pretty good.
Okay.
I've watched American Idol. Both episodes have made me cry. I like American Idol. I guess I'm just emotional.
Got some sob stories getting to you.
Yep. They're good. Okay. I also watched The Bachelor. But the last episode of The Bachelor was like the I don't know what they call it, but Chris Harrison sits up and he talks to a bunch of different women about this and that or whatever. So it wasn't like a real rose ceremony or whatever. So there was that. I watched Minari, which I've been incredibly hyped about for quite a long time. And I watched Nomadland, which I was blindsided with. And
so one thinks that maybe we'll talk about them at length. I think they seem like 2 films worthy of some fuller discussions. Would you agree with that?
I would totally agree with that.
Okay. Well, maybe. I can't confirm or deny. I mean, I can. We'll talk about them. I think for sure. So yeah, there'll be discussions worth hearing, I'm sure, as well. In addition to being films worth watching, is probably a decent way of putting it.
That's fair. Other than that, it's been work. Like I said at the top of the episode, we hired somebody new, so we'll see how that person works out. And I go on vacation, not this Saturday, but next Saturday I will be gone for 1 week. And it'll be a 1 week tour of the Southwest, which will be
nice.
Cool.
Very cool.
We've got plans to go see, we're staying in Las Vegas, but we're going to be seeing, the Hoover Dam and the Grand Canyon and, Zion National Park and Death Valley. And there's a thing where you can drive like tractors and like what do they call them? Skid steers and backhoes and that sort of thing in Las Vegas. So we're going to be doing that at some point, I think, or riding a trail car or whatever. I don't know. Well, it'll be a fucking cool vacation. I'm excited to get away from work. Period.
Yeah, I think
I'll put a staple in it and I'll tell you about it when I get back.
We will look forward to hearing on your experiences, which as a precursor, our goal is to record a few episodes before you go, so then when you come back, I'm sure we'll be able to tell. When you have been enlightened by your travel and experiences and such, you'll be able to offer some insight on those. But you might be hearing about the trip on the next few episodes. You might be excited. You might be excited for something.
Get excited!
Like that.
It's going to be a cool trip, and we'll talk about it when I get back.
Okay,
but that's what I'm looking forward to right now. So that's it,
and it's not too far away. So. All right, well, on my end, I have a lot of things that I've been up to, but, because we are going to be spacing things out, news and otherwise over a few episodes, I'm only going to talk about a couple things here. The first of which is following up on a thread that was just mentioned in the listener's corner. I did watch The Little Things before it bowed out of the HBO Max
the boring
1 month
things
window. The Boring Things, as it is known by one Bruce Brown.
I also saw The Boring Things.
It's not an unfair characterization of the film. However, I would go one step further and say this is one of the worst things I've seen in a long time. So, I mean, I know we talked about it like on the 2021 episode. I know you had seen it at the time, and it seemed like you had liked it. Maybe you didn't think it was like all that bad. It was fine or something like that. I don't know if that's closer to kind of how you felt about it, but.
I thought it was totally fine. I thought it ended kind of weird. But
the ending is fucking dog shit. I mean, I'll say that for sure.
Wax
I mean,
the head with the goddamn
it's just everything about the third act was just absolute nonsense. Not even the lack of resolution really to like the thrust of it. Like, I think there's a way to do that and still have an effective like ending and an effective movie. But goddamn, I hated that movie. I just... Whew. It's the worst thing I've seen in a long time. I mean, if nothing else. I mean, probably close to a year. We were talking...
I don't know. I think you're pushing it.
No, it was worse than Wonder Woman for me, for sure. Like, without question, it was
worse than
Wonder
Bloodshot?
It's in Bloodshot tier for me. It's hovering around that territory. I was kind of blown away by how bad it was because it was just poorly written and poorly directed, and like Denzel's just Denzeling it up, and like that's fine,
That's
I don't
cool.
expect a
I
whole
haven't
lot
seen
out of
Denzel in a
Denzel.
while.
He just does his thing. Rami Malek fucking sucked. He was so miscast in that role. He was awful. And like the weird thing is, like, I think this speaks volumes personally. I think Jared Leto was the best performer in the movie. Like, he was the best. He was playing a creepy fucking weirdo dude, and it's just like, yeah, he's just showing up on set playing himself. Like, fine. There's a reason. It's the Kevin Spacey thing of like, wow, he's really good at playing this character that seems to like younger, younger people for some reason. I don't know what's up with that. He's really convincing. It's that sort of thing, and it's like,
oh shit.
If Jared Leto, he said my dad said Jared Leto was the fucking worst, and I was like, I agree with that. Jared Leto is the fucking worst, but he was still the best performer in this shit film.
See, I don't know.
So,
I don't think Jared Leto's the fucking worst in everything he plays in.
He just does nothing for me. He does. I mean, next to nothing. Like, he actively detracts from things that he appears in for me. And so when he is the only reason that it's like, oh, who's the best part of it? Like, wow, that must be really fucking bad. You know, I just thought it was.
See, I wholeheartedly think he's the worst thing in like Batman v Superman or whatever the fuck. I don't even know what DC movie he was in anymore. I'm not sure.
Squad, soon to be Justice League.
Justice League. Okay, yeah.
Lest you forget,
that was really bad. He's probably the worst in Blade Runner.
Oh, there's no question. He's absolutely the worst.
He's absolutely, yeah. I could say he's the worst in Blade Runner, but I did not.
It's a great film in spite of him.
It did not detract from my experience of him.
Sure.
Or the movie. It didn't detract from my experience of the movie.
As we always talk about when that film comes up, they had David Bowie in mind for that role. And obviously David Bowie could not have portrayed that role because David Bowie unfortunately did not survive, to play that role. But David Bowie to Jared Leto? What? You know what I mean? Like,
okay.
What?
All right, fair enough.
And maybe that's an unfair,
I go back
thing to hold against him. Like, it's not his fault he's not David Bowie. Fucking no one is David Bowie. Of course no one's going to hold a candle to someone like Bowie.
He was supposed to be playing Jesus. That's what I took from it. He's supposed to be playing Jesus.
Yeah, I just...
He was good in Requiem for a Dream.
Fine. I'll give you Jared Leto from decades ago at this point. I think it's more just modern.
Was he good? Was he good in Dallas Players Club? I never watched that movie.
Yeah, I think it's a good performance. I think now it takes on a different lens in the sense that I think there, I think there's
Justice League ruined Jared Leto. You can say it.
He was not in Justice League. He will be in the Zack Snyder version of it. They specifically brought him.
Which one
back
was he
for
in?
It.
Which one was he in?
Suicide Squad. He was in Suicide Squad as the Joker in the Suicide Squad.
Yeah, that did a sufficient job of tainting.
Yes, that was it. That's all. It's all we needed. We're good. We're done with him. I think with Dallas Buyers Club, I think it's a good performance. I think I think. Now we're at a point where we can just have transgendered people play transgender roles. It's fine. You know what I mean? Like, you don't need to have a cisgendered actor play that role. You don't need that. You know what I mean? So I think that's the pushback you see against stuff like, like a casting like that happening like now. And I think that's absolutely valid, so I'm not going to say that like it wasn't a good performance or whatever like that, but like we didn't need it. We didn't need him taking on that role. You know what I mean? Like, there are people that could have taken that role and delivered a more authentic performance because that's their life. You know what I mean? So, I don't know. Jared Leto sucks is how I feel about him. And The Little Things fucking sucks. And not even in spite of Jared Leto. It could have been just the worst fucking thing. I mean, it's an early contender for the worst of 2021. I'm sure there'll be some stinkers that we'll catch along the route, of the rest of this year. But I just thought it was just pure garbage. I was shocked at how bad it was, to be honest. I really thought it was going to be fine, like kind of very boilerplate serial killer murder mystery detective kind of thing. But I'm just digging holes. And
I don't think I ever recommended you watch it, to be fair.
You did not. I'm not blaming you for anything like that. I watched it because I was like, it's on HBO Max. Maybe I would have A-listed this back in the day, in the times
can watch
of normalcy
Tom and
or whatever.
Jerry.
But I've heard that's just as bad. So it's been getting some savage reviews, I will say. You said on the record, you have to hold true that if something is on HBO Max, you're going to watch it because you want to support.
I've been avoiding
you want to support the platform, for what they're doing. So,
What else you been up to besides the boring things?
Besides the boring things, the only thing I'll mention is I have sort of finished Hades, the wonderful video game Hades. I think I had talked about it a while back to say that I had, beaten the final boss, which unsurprisingly is Hades. And basically, because of the design of the game, you still have to go back and do it again. And so basically you have to do it 10 times. You have to beat Hades 10 times, clear the whole thing, beat Hades 10 times to get the true ending of the game. And so I've done that. That actually happened quite a while ago, so I haven't played it in a while. But I did get the true ending of the game, and it was satisfying. It felt really good. I was glad to do it. And I was just like, oh, I can keep playing this game. And then the next time I played it, I was just like, oh, it's kind of lost a little bit of luster for me. I was just like, I did the thing, and now I'm satisfied with the thing. So I've hung up my cape, and I've stopped playing Hades at this point and moved on to other things.
Wow.
But the 40 to 50 hours, I think, that I put in Hades, roughly speaking, to get to that point, probably closer to 50, I guess. Definitely my favorite game that I played last year. I'm not saying it's the best game of 2020, but it was absolutely my favorite game. It sucked me in. Just a beautifully drawn game, a very fun gameplay loop, and the mythology aspects of it was just really cool. Like the story and lore of it was just really, really awesome. So I will follow up on my previous recommendation and say that Hades is well worth playing. It's on Steam and Switch. Maybe it'll come to PS4, Xbox at some point. I'd be shocked if it doesn't. I don't know when that'll happen, but anyway, you can play it. It runs just fine on Switch. I'm sure it runs a little bit better on PC, as all things are wont to do. But Hades was fucking awesome. So highly, highly recommend it. But that's it. That's all I'll say on this particular episode. I'll save some other things that I've been up to for another time. So yeah, you ready to call it an episode here?
We'll call it an episode, dude. Let's
do it. Thank you all for listening. If you enjoyed what you heard, please spread the word. If you want to support us on Patreon, patreon.com/watchreviewrepeat. You can get early access to all of our regular episodes, such as the many that we're going to be recording in the near future, and I'll probably try to space them out to accommodate for the time that Andrew will be away on vacay. And we'll get around to a bonus episode before long. Who knows when, but sometime after he gets back from vacay, I'm sure. Otherwise, website is watchreviewrepeat.com. Social media, if you want to follow us on Twitter, we are at WRRPod. You can like our Facebook just by searching for Watch Review Repeat. Like our page that way. If you have any questions, comments, suggestions, anything you want to contribute to another edition of the Listener's Corner, watchreviewrepeat@gmail.com is the way to do that. Our intro and outro track is Mechanolith by Kevin MacLeod, licensed under the Creative Commons by Attribution 3.0 license. And our next episode will be on the first Marvel Studios Disney Plus television show, which is just wrapped up as of the day we're recording this, in fact, WandaVision. We'll be talking all 9 episodes of WandaVision, and I think it'll be an episode you don't want to miss. So look forward to our coverage of that. And until then,
party on, dudes.
Laters on the Menjay.
Take care now. Bye-bye then.